The grand palace of Valora stood beneath a sky of twin suns. Its towers made of crystal that caught the light and scattered colors across the city below. The Valorians were known for their elegance, their tall forms, and the shimmering glow in their eyes that marked their heritage. To them, humans were strange newcomers, recent allies who had arrived from distant Earth seeking peace and trade. The alliance was fragile, held together by careful promises and ceremonies that were meant to prove trust between the two peoples. Inside the palace lived Princess Nira, the only daughter of the Valorian queen. From her earliest days, Nira was taught that she carried the weight of her people's future. Every step she took, every word she spoke, was watched by nobles and advisors. Though she longed for freedom beyond the palace walls, her life was shaped by duty. To the Valorian council, her destiny was clear. She was to bond with a noble of her race, strengthen the royal line, and continue traditions that had lasted for centuries. Among the guards stationed in the palace was a young human named Aaron. He was not the strongest among the soldiers, nor the most decorated, yet he carried a quiet determination. His task was to remain unnoticed, to protect without drawing attention. Aaron respected the Valorians and kept his head low, knowing that many of them still doubted humans were worthy allies. He spoke little, choosing instead to act with discipline and loyalty. The day of the ceremony arrived. It was meant to be a celebration of unity, a formal meeting between Valorian leaders and human envoys. The hall was filled with glowing banners, music from crystal instruments, and rows of guards who stood in silence. Nira entered dressed in a flowing robe that shimmered like starlight. Her people bowed. The humans placed their hands to their hearts in respect. As Nira moved through the hall, she passed near the line of guards. She carried herself with grace, but beneath her calm expression was a storm of worry. She knew her people watched every motion, searching for flaws or signs of weakness. For a brief moment, her robe brushed against Aaron's arm. The touch was light, accidental, something no one should have noticed. Yet in that instant, something impossible happened. A brilliant spark burst between them. It was not fire, nor simple light. It was alive, a radiant glow that wrapped around their hands and traveled through the air like threads of silver flame. Nira gasped, her eyes widening as the glow pulsed with warmth. Aaron froze, stunned by the sudden energy rushing through his body. The hall grew silent. Every eye turned toward them as the glow faded slowly, leaving behind a heavy silence. Valorians whispered among themselves. They knew this light. It was the soul spark, a sign that appeared only when two beings were bound by fate, destined to share their lives. Among their kind, it was rare and revered, believed to be a gift from the stars themselves. But never in all of history had it been seen between a Valorian and a human. Nira's heart pounded in her chest. She could not deny what she had seen, nor could she explain it. She had been taught since childhood that her soulmate would be one of her own race. To see the spark with a human was unthinkable. Her hands trembled as she tried to steady her breath. Aaron bowed his head quickly, trying to hide the confusion on his face. He had felt the warmth in his chest, a pull stronger than anything he had known. But he dared not speak of it. The ceremony ended in silence rather than celebration. The queen's advisors exchanged uneasy glances, and the nobles left the hall murmuring. Some believed it was a mistake, some feared it was a sign of danger, while a few wondered if it was destiny. Nira retreated to her private chambers, her thoughts a storm she could not calm. She pressed her hand against her heart, remembering the way the light had flowed into her when she touched Aaron. She had felt his presence inside her mind for a fleeting instant, as if she had known him for years. Aaron returned to the guard quarters, but his thoughts were no less restless. He replayed the moment again and again. The spark was not a trick of the eyes. It had been real, and it had changed something inside him. He had seen Nira's eyes when it happened, the way they widened with the same shock he felt, yet he reminded himself of his duty. He was a guard, nothing more. A guard had no place standing beside a princess. That night, the palace buzzed with whispers. Scholars gathered in hidden chambers to debate what they had witnessed. Some claimed it was impossible for the soul spark to cross species. Others argued that it might mean humans were more connected to the Valorians than anyone had believed. The council called an urgent meeting, their voices rising in heated argument. Some feared that such a bond would anger the nobles and divide the people. Others whispered of prophecy, old words carved into forgotten stone, that spoke of renewal through an outsider. Nira sat at her window long into the night, staring at the twin suns setting over the horizon. Her trembling hands betrayed her calm face. She had never questioned her destiny before, but now everything she had been taught seemed uncertain. She felt a pull inside her heart, a quiet voice calling her toward Aaron. She did not understand it, but she could not ignore it. In the guard quarters, Aaron lay awake. The other humans joked quietly about the day's ceremony, unaware of the storm inside him. He kept silent, staring at the ceiling, feeling the echo of the spark still alive in his chest. He had always believed he was ordinary, a simple soldier far from home. Now he wondered if fate had chosen him for something far greater. The palace, once a place of order and tradition, now trembled with uncertainty. 2 lives had touched, and a spark had changed everything. Neither Nira nor Aaron knew where it would lead, but both understood one truth: their worlds would never be the same again. The palace of Valora did not sleep after the strange event in the Great Hall. Whispers moved through every corridor like shadows. Servants spoke in hushed voices as they carried trays. Guards exchanged uncertain glances at their posts, and nobles gathered in private chambers to argue about what had happened. The soul spark was a sacred sign for the Valorians, but to see it between their princess and a human was something none of them could accept easily. Princess Nira sat in her chamber, her hands clasped tightly together. She replayed the moment again and again in her mind. The warmth that had surged through her had not been an illusion. It was real, alive, and it still echoed in her chest. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, searching her own eyes for answers. For the first time in her life, she did not feel certain about who she was meant to be. Her mother, Queen Leora, entered the room quietly. The queen carried herself with the calm grace of a ruler, but her eyes were filled with concern. She placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "My child," the queen said softly, "what happened today cannot be ignored. The council demands answers. They fear what this means for you and for our people." Nira lowered her head. "Mother, I do not understand it myself. I only touched him, and the spark came. It felt like a part of me was calling to him. I cannot deny it." The queen sighed. "I believe you, but the council does not. They will see this as a threat to our traditions. They will say that a human cannot be joined to our royal line." Nira's heart sank. She knew her mother spoke the truth. The Valorian nobles lived by ancient customs. They believed their bloodline carried power that must never be weakened by outsiders. To them, the soul spark had always been a sign meant for Valorian pairs. Meanwhile, Aaron was summoned by the captain of the guard. He stood in a small chamber with stone walls, his back straight though his heart raced. The captain studied him with sharp eyes. "You were chosen to guard the princess because you were loyal and quiet." The captain said firmly, "Now all eyes are on you. What happened in that hall must never be repeated." Aaron kept his voice steady. "I did nothing, Captain. The princess brushed against me, and the light appeared. I could not control it." "Ah," the captain frowned. "Perhaps not, but you must remember your place. You are a guard, nothing more. Do not think this makes you special." Aaron nodded, though inside he felt torn. The light had shaken him to the core. He had felt connected to Nira in a way that words could not describe. It was as if part of his soul had woken from a long sleep. He wanted to deny it, yet he knew he could not. Days passed, but the palace did not return to peace. The council held meetings that lasted long into the night. Some members demanded that Nira be bound quickly to a Valorian noble to prove the spark with Aaron meant nothing. Others feared angering the soul spark by denying its truth. One evening, Nira was called before the council. She stood in the center of the chamber, the light of crystal torches reflecting off the polished floor. The elders sat in a circle around her, their robes heavy with symbols of tradition. "Princess Nira," one elder spoke, You are the heir to Valora. Your destiny is to strengthen our people through a bond with one of our own. Yet the spark that appeared between you and a human threatens this destiny. We ask you, do you claim this human as your chosen? The chamber grew silent. Nira's breath caught in her throat. She thought of Aaron's eyes when the spark flared, the warmth she felt in her chest, the certainty that it was no accident. But she also thought of her people, their expectations, their fears. With trembling lips, she answered, I cannot claim him. I do not understand what happened, but I know my duty. The elders nodded, though their eyes betrayed both relief and unease. They dismissed her, but the weight of her words followed her long after she left the chamber that night. Nira could not rest. She wandered through the palace gardens under the twin moons, her thoughts heavy. The flowers glowed softly in the night, their petals shimmering like stars. She paused by the fountain, where water flowed like liquid crystal. She did not expect to find Aaron there, standing guard in the shadows. His posture was rigid, but when he saw her, he lowered his head respectfully. Your Highness, he said quietly. Nira hesitated, then stepped closer. Do you feel it still? She asked. Aaron lifted his eyes. For a moment, he said nothing, then finally spoke. Yes, I feel it. It has not left me since that day. I try to ignore it, but it is there. Stronger than anything I have known. Nira's heart quickened. She had hoped he would deny it, to make it easier for her to forget. But his words only deepened the truth she already knew. She reached out, her hand trembling as it brushed against his. The spark flared again. Bright, alive, undeniable. Threads of silver light wrapped around their hands, glowing against the darkness of the night. Nira gasped softly. It is real, she whispered. It cannot be denied. Aaron looked at her with steady eyes. Then what will we do? Before she could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed through the garden. They quickly pulled apart as a figure approached. It was Elder Varen, one of the most respected voices on the council. He stared at them with sharp suspicion, his eyes narrowing at the faint glow that lingered between their hands. You disobey us, Princess, Varen said coldly. You meet with the human in secret. You risk everything for a bond that should not exist. Nira stood tall, her voice shaking but firm. I did not seek it, Elder. The spark came on its own. Do not blame him for what fate has chosen. But Varen only shook his head. Fate is not so simple. This will tear our people apart. He left with heavy steps, his robe sweeping across the ground. Nira and Aaron stood in silence, both knowing that the secret was no longer theirs. From that night forward, the palace grew tense. Rumors spread faster than ever. Some Valorians whispered that Nira was chosen by the stars for a greater purpose, that the bond with a human was meant to lead their people to a new future. Others claimed it was a curse that would bring ruin. Nira tried to carry on with her duties, but she felt the eyes of the nobles on her wherever she went. Aaron remained at his post, though he knew the council's patience was thin. Every time their eyes met, the spark stirred inside them, reminding them that no matter what others said, their connection was real. As days turned to weeks, it became clear that this was no passing event. The soul spark had bound them, and nothing could undo it. But in the shadow of tradition and fear, both Nira and Aaron faced a question neither could escape. Were they brave enough to follow the light that fate had given them, even if it meant standing against their world? The days following Elder Varen's discovery were heavy with tension. The palace no longer felt like a place of safety to Nira. Everywhere she went, whispers followed. Servants bowed quickly and avoided her eyes. Nobles looked at her with suspicion, and even some guards glanced at her with doubt. The spark had made her a subject of fear and wonder, and she could not escape the weight of it. Aaron felt the same pressure. His fellow guards treated him differently. Some avoided speaking to him at all, while others muttered that he had bewitched the princess. He tried to keep his focus on duty, standing tall at his post, but the unease of those around him pressed down like a heavy chain. At night, when the barracks grew silent, he would close his eyes and still feel the faint warmth of the spark alive inside his chest. The council met often, their voices echoing through the palace halls long after the doors were closed. They argued without end. Some said Nira must be bonded immediately to a Valorian noble before the people lost faith. Others said to silence the spark was to invite disaster. In the city beyond the palace walls, rumors spread among the citizens. Some believed the princess had been chosen by the stars to unite Valorians and humans. Others called it a curse. The once steady alliance now trembled. Nira tried to remain strong, but her heart was restless. She could not deny the truth she felt whenever she thought of Aaron. The spark was not a simple accident. It was alive, real, and growing stronger. She needed answers, and she knew where to look. Late one night, when the palace corridors were quiet, Nira slipped from her chamber in a cloak. She moved carefully through the halls, avoiding the patrols. Her feet carried her to the ancient archives, a place where scrolls and tablets from ages past were kept. Few visited the archives anymore, for most records had been copied into crystal memory. But Nira believed the old writings might hold truths forgotten by time. To her surprise, Aaron was already there. He stood in the dim glow of a lantern, his brow furrowed as he read the carvings on a stone tablet. When he saw her, he straightened quickly, bowing his head. "Your Highness," he said, his voice low. "I did not mean to intrude. I only sought to understand what happened to us." Nira stepped closer, pulling back her hood. "You feel it too? The spark. It is not faded." Aaron nodded. "No, it is as if it grows stronger each day." Together they studied the tablets. They found passages that spoke of the soul spark as a bond beyond time and space, a joining not of blood, but of destiny. One tablet told of a prophecy that one day the spark would appear with an outsider, and through this union, renewal would come to the Valorian race. Nira touched the carvings with trembling fingers. If this is true, then our meeting was not chance. It was fate. Aaron's voice was steady. Then we must decide what to do with that fate. Before they could speak further, the sound of footsteps echoed through the archive hall. They quickly hid among the shelves as a pair of council guards entered, their lanterns swinging. The guards whispered about Elder Varen's growing anger and the council's plan to put Aaron on trial. Nira's heart tightened. She realized they did not have much time. The council would try to separate them, perhaps even banish Aaron. She knew she could not let that happen. Yet she also knew defying the council would place her in great danger. When the guards left, Nira turned to Aaron. Her voice shook, but her eyes were firm. "We cannot hide forever. If they wish to put you on trial, then I will stand beside you. They must see the spark with their own eyes and know it is real." Aaron hesitated. "If you stand with me, you risk losing everything. Your throne, your people's trust." Nira shook her head. "What is a throne if it means living a lie? I cannot deny what the stars have chosen." The following day, word spread that Aaron was to be brought before the council. The trial would be held in the Grand Chamber, open for nobles and citizens to witness. The city buzzed with anticipation, some eager to see the human punished, as others waiting to see if destiny would unfold before them. When the day arrived, the chamber filled with light from the crystal ceiling. The council sat in a circle, their faces stern. Aaron was brought forward in chains, though he walked with calm dignity. Nira sat at the side of her mother, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Elder Varen rose to speak. "This human stands accused of defiling our traditions and endangering our future. The soul spark is sacred. To see it bound to one not of our kind is dangerous. We must protect our people from this threat." Murmurs rose from the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others shook their heads. The queen raised her hand. "Let the princess speak. She was part of this event. Her voice must be heard." Nira rose, her heart pounding. She stepped to the center of the chamber, standing beside Aaron. The sight shocked many in the audience. She lifted her voice so all could hear. "The spark is not a curse," she said. "It is truth. I did not seek it, nor did he. It came of its own will, and it has grown stronger each day. If the stars have chosen this bond, who are we to deny it?" As she spoke, she reached for Aaron's hand. Gasps filled the chamber as the soul spark flared to life once more, brighter than ever before. The silver threads wrapped around them both, pulsing with warmth, filling the chamber with light. The very walls seemed to hum with the energy. The people stared in awe. Some fell silent in wonder. Others whispered prayers. The council members shifted uneasily, unable to deny what they saw. Elder Varen scowled, but even he could not hide the tremor in his hands. When the light faded, Nira looked around the chamber. This is not a threat. This is a gift, a bond between worlds. If we reject it, we reject the will of the stars themselves. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some shouted in support, others cried for tradition. The queen remained silent, her eyes unreadable. Aaron stood beside Nira, ready for whatever judgment would come. That night, the city was alive with talk of what had happened. The people had seen the spark with their own eyes, and many began to believe the prophecy was true. The council, however, was divided. Some feared change, others saw hope. Nira knew the days ahead would not be easy. The spark had been revealed, and there was no turning back. The path of destiny was opening before them, but it would demand courage, sacrifice, and trust in one another. The bond they shared was no longer a secret. It was a flame burning in the heart of Valora, and it would either bring unity or tear their world apart. The chamber of the council was restless long after the spark had filled it with light. Nobles whispered in clusters, their robes brushing against the polished floor as they argued. Some shouted for order, others demanded silence. The people who had crowded into the gallery were no less shaken. They had seen with their own eyes that the soul spark between Nira and Aaron was real, undeniable, and stronger than any tale recorded in their history. The council adjourned that night without giving judgment. The members left in silence, each of them carrying fear or wonder in their hearts. The queen left with a thoughtful expression, her guards close at hand. Nira remained with Aaron in the chamber until the last noble had gone. Her hands trembled, but her gaze was steady. "You see now," she said softly, looking up at him. "They cannot deny it. The spark is too strong." Aaron nodded, though his eyes carried worry. "But they will try." You saw Elder Varen's face. "He will not rest until he convinces them that this bond is dangerous." Nira's voice grew firm. "Then we must be stronger. We must show them that it is not a threat, but a gift." Over the following days, the palace grew more divided than ever. Supporters of tradition demanded Aaron be sent away, while others began to see him as a symbol of change. Citizens gathered in the city squares, arguing late into the night. Some carried banners painted with silver light, calling Nira and Aaron the chosen pair of the prophecy. Others shouted that the human must leave Valora before ruin fell upon them. The council held meeting after meeting, but no agreement could be reached. Some elders believed the prophecy was being fulfilled. Others believed it was only a dangerous trick. Elder Varen became the loudest voice against the bond, his speeches stirring fear in many hearts. He claimed that to accept a human into the royal line was to invite the end of Valorian strength. During this time, Nira and Aaron grew closer. Though they were watched constantly, they found small moments to speak when others were not listening. Each time their hands touched, the spark flared, and with each flare, their bond deepened. Aaron spoke of his life on Earth, of fields of green and skies filled with birds. Nira spoke of her childhood in the palace, of nights spent staring at the twin suns and dreaming of freedom beyond the walls. One evening, Nira asked the question that had weighed on her heart since the trial. "Do you regret it, Aaron? Do you regret that the spark chose us?" Aaron looked at her with calm eyes. "No, it frightens me, yes. But it also gives me strength. For the first time in my life, I feel that I belong to something greater than myself." Her chest tightened at his words. She realized that she felt the same. Though the spark had thrown her world into chaos, it had also given her hope she had never known before, but their peace was brief. Elder Varen struck swiftly. He called for a public hearing, not only with the council, but with citizens invited to witness. His voice was sharp as he accused Aaron of using the spark to gain power, claiming that humans had long sought to rise above their place. He warned that if the princess was allowed to bond with a human, the Valorian line would be weakened forever. The hearing was tense. Nira stood beside Aaron, refusing to let him face the storm alone. When Varan's words ended, she spoke. Her voice rang clear through the chamber. "You call this bond a weakness," she said. "But look around you. The spark is not darkness. It is light. It is unity. If the stars chose to bind me to Aaron, then it was not to divide us, but to remind us that our future is not built on walls, but on bridges." Gasps filled the chamber. Some applauded her courage, others muttered in anger. Aaron stood silent beside her, his hands steady at his side, though his heart pounded that night. As the city burned with debate, Nira and Aaron met again in the palace garden. The fountain glowed under the moons, and the flowers shimmered like starlight. "They will never stop," Aaron said quietly. "Even if some support us, Varen will keep pushing until the council is forced to act." Atera's eyes shone with determination. "Then we must show them the truth. We must prove that the spark is not only for us, but for all of Valora." She reached for his hand, and once again the spark came alive, brighter than before. The light rose higher, flowing like silver fire into the night sky. For the first time, it did not fade quickly. Instead, it lingered above them, casting a glow across the entire palace garden, unseen by them. Many eyes watched from the balconies and windows. Servants, nobles, and guards alike saw the brilliance of the spark lighting the night. Murmurs filled the palace as the glow slowly faded. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others whispered that the prophecy was unfolding before them the next day. Support for Nira and Aaron grew stronger among the citizens. Markets buzzed with talk of the light that had risen above the palace. Children carried small silver lanterns in honor of the spark, and songs began to spread, calling Nira and Aaron the light of unity. This frightened the council even more. Elder Varen warned that the people were being blinded by a dangerous illusion. He urged the council to act quickly, to silence the bond before it consumed their traditions completely. Some elders agreed, but others hesitated, their hearts moved by the sight of the spark. The queen remained silent through it all. She listened to every word spoken, but gave no clear sign of her judgment. Nira often wondered what her mother truly thought. She longed to ask her, but she feared the answer. At last, Elder Varen demanded that the council take final action. He called for Aaron to be banished from Valora forever, claiming that this was the only way to protect the people. The council agreed to gather one final time, with the queen's voice to decide. The day of the final trial arrived. The chamber was filled beyond its capacity, citizens standing shoulder to shoulder in the galleries, nobles seated in their rows, guards lining the walls. The queen sat upon her throne, her face calm but unreadable. Nira stood with Aaron, her hand trembling but firm in his. Elder Varen rose first. His voice was sharp as he declared, "If we allow this bond, we betray our ancestors. We destroy the strength of Valora. We must send the human away before it is too late." The chamber filled with murmurs. Some shouted in agreement, others cried out in protest. Then Nira stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. "If you send him away, you send away the will of the stars. You turn your back on the light that has been given to us. I will not deny the bond. I will not deny the truth. Aaron is not my weakness. He is my strength." She took Aaron's hand, and once more the soul spark burst into brilliance. This time it was stronger than ever, filling the chamber from floor to ceiling with silver light. The very air seemed to hum with energy. The people gasped, some shielding their eyes, others crying out in wonder. The light wrapped around Nira and Aaron like a shield, pulsing with warmth and life. For a moment, the chamber was silent, every voice stilled by the power of the spark. Then the people began to cheer. Their voices rose in waves, filling the chamber and echoing through the city beyond. The council could not silence them. The queen rose from her throne. She looked at her daughter, then at Aaron, then at the light that still shimmered around them. Her voice was calm, but strong. "The stars have spoken," she said. "The bond cannot be denied. We must not fight it. We must accept it and trust that it will guide us forward." Elder Varen's face twisted with anger, but he could say nothing. The voices of the people were too strong, the light too undeniable. That night, the city of Valora erupted in celebration. Lanterns filled the streets, music echoed through the squares, and the people danced under the twin moons. For the first time, humans and Valorians celebrated together, united by the spark they had seen with their own eyes. But in the shadows of the palace, Elder Varen gathered those who still feared change. His voice was low and filled with venom. The queen has chosen wrongly. The princess has been blinded by the spark. If the council will not act, then we must. For the sake of Valora, we cannot allow this bond to continue. While the city celebrated, the seeds of rebellion began to grow. The city of Valora shimmered under the twin moons, filled with music, laughter, and the light of countless lanterns. Citizens cheered in the streets, celebrating the union of human and Valorian that had been revealed in the council chamber. For the first time, humans and Valorians mingled freely, no longer separated by suspicion or fear. Children waved small banners painted with silver threads, singing songs of unity inside the palace. Princess Nira and Aaron walked hand in hand through the halls, the soul's spark still faintly glowing between them. The spark had become a part of them, a living bond that guided their steps. Guards bowed as they passed, nobles whispered, and even some members of the council watched in silence. Still unsure whether to accept the change or resist it, Queen Leora stood on her balcony, gazing down at the city below. She spoke quietly to Nira. "The people have seen the truth, my child. Your courage has brought hope, but the shadow of doubt remains. Elder Varen will not accept this easily." Nira nodded. "I know, Mother. We cannot ignore those who resist. But we must show them that the spark is not a threat. It is a gift." Aaron squeezed her hand gently. "Then we face them together. Whatever comes next, we face it as one." The following morning, the council convened once more. Elder Varen arrived with a small group of allies who still opposed the bond. Their voices were loud and sharp, filled with warnings of tradition, ancestry, and the dangers of mixing races. But this time, Nira did not cower. She stood tall beside Aaron, her hand resting on his shoulder. "You speak of danger," Nira said, her voice steady. "But look at what you have seen. The spark brings light, not darkness. It unites us, and it will guide our people toward a stronger future. To deny it is to deny what is real, what is greater than fear or pride." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some council members nodded, swayed by her words. Elder Varen scowled, his hands clenched at his sides. He stepped forward. "Princess, you speak of unity, but you risk the very foundation of Valora. You cannot ignore the traditions that have sustained our people for generations. We cannot allow a human to alter the royal line." Aaron stepped forward, his voice calm but strong. "I am not here to take from your people. I am here to protect them, to honor them. The spark chose us. It is not a weapon or a threat. It is proof that two worlds can be stronger together." For a long moment, silence fell. Then the spark between Nira and Aaron flared brightly, filling the chamber with a gentle warmth. The light wrapped around them both, and for the first time, even Elder Varen could not deny its presence. A young council member, previously quiet, spoke up. "If the spark is real, and if the prophecy speaks of renewal through an outsider, perhaps it is time to embrace change. Perhaps we have been afraid of what we do not understand." The queen's eyes softened. She raised her hand, calling for order. "The council will vote. We will not act out of fear, nor out of anger. We will decide based on truth and the good of our people." One by one, the members cast their votes. Some were hesitant, fearing change. Others spoke of the spark, of what they had witnessed, and of the hope it had inspired. When the final count was made, the majority supported Nira and Aaron's bond. Elder Varen and his allies were outnumbered. Their resistance overruled. As the vote was announced, the spark surged once more, bright and pure. The chamber was filled with warmth, and a quiet cheer rose among the citizens who had been watching from the galleries. The prophecy had been fulfilled, and the light was undeniable. In the following weeks, Nira and Aaron worked tirelessly to strengthen the alliance between humans and Valorians. Together, they visited cities, spoke to citizens, and helped repair mistrust that had existed for generations. The spark guided them, illuminating not only their path but also the hearts of those they met. They discovered that humans brought skills and ideas that complemented Valorian knowledge. Engineers from Earth collaborated with Valorian architects to create new structures that shimmered with energy and beauty. Farmers shared techniques for growing crops under the twin suns, increasing food supply and stability. Together, they built a society that was stronger, more resilient, and filled with hope. Even Elder Varen slowly began to see the benefit. Though he spoke little of it, he observed the unity growing among the people. When he saw humans and Valorians working side by side, children playing together, and citizens celebrating without fear, he realized that change had brought strength, not ruin. One evening, Nira and Aaron stood atop the palace balcony, watching the city below glow with lanterns and joy. The spark shimmered faintly between them, gentle reminder of the bond that had started it all. "I never imagined it could be like this," Aaron said, his eyes reflecting the light of the city. "A world where both of our peoples can thrive together." Nira smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "It is only the beginning. We have shown what is possible, but there is still much to do. We must guide our people, protect the bond, and keep the spark alive." Aaron nodded. "Together we can face anything." And so, the alliance between humans and Valorians grew stronger than ever. The spark between Nira and Aaron became a symbol, a living reminder that courage, trust, and unity could overcome fear and tradition. Across Valora, citizens spoke of the princess and her human guard, the pair chosen by destiny to bring light to two worlds. Years passed, and the story of the spark became legend. Children grew up hearing of the day the light flared between a Valorian princess and a human, changing the course of history forever. Families told the tale not as a story of rebellion, but as a story of hope. The bond that once caused doubt and fear became the foundation of a new era. Princess Nira and Aaron remained side by side, guiding their people with wisdom, courage, and love. Their spark never faded, a constant reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected places in the end. The twin suns set each evening over a world united, a world where fear had been replaced with hope, and where the bond between two souls had reshaped history. The city of Valora shone brighter than ever, a beacon of what could be achieved when light and trust overcame darkness and doubt. The story of Nira and Aaron, the princess and her human soulmate, was remembered for generations. They had faced fear, tradition, and uncertainty, and they had triumphed. Together, they had shown that destiny, when embraced with courage, could bring a world together, stronger and more beautiful than anyone had imagined. And so, under the twin suns, the spark continued to shine,